Welcome to Brave Science. Today we will discuss the quadruplicity of natural systems, specifically the specialized functions of the components of natural systems. Let's begin. All natural systems are made up of four components with specialized functions. They are self-similar across various scales. A system is 1/4 of a larger system, but also contains within itself a subset of four components. So, we're going to be discussing the specialized functions. In order to understand them, it would be good to think of them as archetypes. The roles, the specialized functions are very archetypal. They behave like archetypes. What's an archetype? If you don't know what an archetype is, you've seen one, but you didn't know it was an archetype. So I'll give you an example of some fictional characters. Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid, Rafiki from The Lion King, Gandalf the Grey, Lord of the Rings, Yoda from Star Wars. They are different characters, right? I mean, Rafiki is an animal, and Yoda is an alien, and Mr. Miyagi is human. But they all participate in the same archetype, which has been named the wise old man. They're different characters, but they're all fulfilling the same role in the story. And the more you encounter the wise old man archetype, the faster you are able to identify it. Because of its characteristics, because of its clues. It's usually, the wise old man, sort of character, and he helps the hero, and there are other clues. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So, I have 4 examples here of natural systems. We will actually go over these at the end. But why don't we begin with the names of the 4 components and what they do? The first one is the guard. And the guard, the clues that will help you to determine which of the 4 components in a natural system is the guard is it's usually the strongest one, and it's going to be found on the border or the edge of the natural system. And that's why I chose guard. Because, the security guard is at the gate. Or like the city guard is at the gate. On the wall. What are some examples of guard components in nature? Well, the atmosphere. The atmosphere, it allows certain things in, but it keeps other things out. It interacts with what is outside our planet. Very good example of a guard component. The platelet in blood is an example. When you get a cut, right, there's a breach. The outside world is now entering the blood. Which component is dispatched to that area? The platelet. The platelet is the guard of the blood. And the atmosphere is the guard of the earth. The electrons in an atom, right? They would be the guard. See, it's the same sort of archetype. It's the same sort of role. It may vary a little bit based on the application, but it's the same job. Like, if you play RPGs, right, you'll be familiar with a term called the tank. The role of, tanking. That's what this is. The atmosphere is the tank of the party of the earth. Now, you can tank in various ways. You can have, heavy plate armor, or, like if you're like a druid or something, you could like turn into like a giant bear. Regardless, whether you're using heavy armor or you're a bear, you are still tanking. You are putting yourself on the front line, and your party's behind you, and the threat you guys are facing, you are the first thing that this mob encounters? The guard. All right, the provider. Where is the provider? The guard is usually on the border. The provider is usually at the center. That's where you will find it. And it provides something. It conveys something. It gives something. Something beneficial comes through it to help the system. In RPG terms, support. The healer. That's what this is. Okay, so like some examples. Well, the red cell, right? It conveys the oxygen that's necessary. The sun at the center of the solar system. Our planet runs on its energy. The provider, the healer, support role. The pulp in the tooth. It's at the center. The enamel, of course, is the guard, right? It's this. It's that white part of your tooth. It's the hard, strong part on the border, protecting the provider. The osteoblast, the bone cell, the osteoblast, it produces bone. It manufactures it, the provider. The proton, it's at the center, and it radiates, right? Radiation comes from the proton. Well, in some manner, that's beneficial. So the proton would be the provider. You say, well, aren't neutrons like right next to it? Yes, but the neutron is the custodian. And the custodian's job is keeping order. It specializes in preventive maintenance. The neutron keeps the electron from the proton. No, you're there and you are here and you don't mix. That's the custodian. The white blood cell is like a custodian. There's a reason why growing up there was a cartoon, Osmosis Jones, where the white blood cell is a police officer, right? Keeping order. When the pathogens enter into your blood, you're not supposed to be here. Gone. The osteoclast, I believe. Yes, the osteoclast. That bone cell, what does it do? Well, whereas the osteoblast, which is the provider, makes the bone material, the osteoclast destroys it and makes way for the new. It keeps the order. See? And so, yes, the neutron is at the center with the proton, but the proton is the one that's radiating, and that's similar to other sorts of providers of other systems. See, it's going to be a little different. You could say it's actually very much so like the sun, though. The sun is at the center, and it radiates. That's what I'm saying. See, there may be a little bit of difference, but, different character, same job. Doesn't matter if you're an archer or a mage. You're applying damage from a ranged position, from afar. Whether you're slinging ice from your hands or you're shooting arrows, you're doing the same thing. And just so with this. What else? Finally, the matrix. This is the most elusive of the four. And it's the one that gives physicists right now the most trouble. The matrix specializes in providing a... let me not use that word. The matrix specializes in fulfilling a structural and communication role. So let's look at blood here. The red cell, the white cell, and the platelet. Well, shouldn't there be like a fourth cell? Well, no. The fourth component is the plasma that engulfs the three. That's a structural role. They are within, and the plasma connects all of them together, but it also communicates with them. I once asked a professional, when you get a cut, which responds first, the plasma or the platelets? He told me it's actually instantaneous. that that the plasma will dispatch the platelet. That's how quick. But there has to be a communication between the two, and that's what the plasma does. Here we have a proton, or what's inside of a proton. You have the two up quarks and the down quark. Okay, well that's three. Where's the fourth? The gluons, which connect the quarks together. Connecting, see, holding together. And probably the gluons allow for communication. Somehow there's communication also going on between the quarks by means of the gluons, just like with the plasma. I'll tell you an example, because it's only right to do so in science, to show examples that stump you. Ant colonies. Now this is a very general example of ant colonies. There are very many different kinds of ants, but just generally. You got your queen, your drones, and your workers. That's three. I just could not for the life of me find that fourth component, the matrix. Where is it? It's not like the ants are engulfed in some liquid like plasma, and it's not like there's some force between them like with the quarks. So what is it? What could it possibly be? Turned out it was the pheromones, and I've represented that here with like a cloud, like a perfume kind of shape. The pheromones connect these three together, and it's also how they communicate. It's the matrix. The queen would be, of course, the provider. It makes more ants. The drones would be the custodian, and the worker, of course, is the guard. Obvious reasons. The last system we'll talk about is a galaxy. This is my drawing of a galaxy. So if you knew nothing about galaxies, how would you use quadruplicity to understand this system? Well, you know that there's four components. You know what they're named and what their jobs are, and where typically to find them. Okay, well, you know that providers are usually found at the center of the system, and they produce or manufacture or make or convey something for the system. Well, what's at the center of a galaxy? Supermassive black hole. So now you have to find out, do black holes make anything? Do they produce anything? Okay? In the comment section, why don't you try to figure out what the guard and the custodian is in a galaxy? But the matrix, if dark matter is real, and it's true that dark matter gathers in galaxies, what if dark matter is the matrix of a galaxy? What if it serves a structural and or communication role between the components of the galaxy? Perhaps it interacts with a black hole in some way. We will see. Next week we'll talk about chariots and rivers. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and this is Brave Science telling you to take no one's word for it and be brave.